I wasn't in an environment where it was encouraged to talk about it either. That was sort of like squashed.
Okay, so what made you think you needed it?
The past, to heal myself from the past.
A leaked EMT report lists male, 39, unconscious, suspected OD. That male is Prince Harry, and the royal PR machine is scrambling to bury the paperwork before it reaches Parliament. Stick around, because the truth inside that ambulance could rewrite royal history. Just before the clock struck 12, the usually tranquil Montecito compound jolted awake. Security cameras caught David Langdown, Prince Harry's iron-nerved bodyguard, sprinting up the main staircase after an automatic sensor flagged abnormal motion in the royal suite. Langdown has protected Harry since the Eton days, the type of professional who speaks in clipped sentences and leaves parties before dessert. The sight that greeted him behind the half-open bedroom door rattled even this veteran. Harry sprawled sideways across the bed, limbs slack, face drained of all colour. A bedside glass reeking of top-shelf tequila lay on its side. An unlabelled prescription bottle rattled on the carpet. Langdown shouted the prince's name, then felt for a pulse. It was there, but faint, like a metronome losing momentum. He grabbed the emergency phone on the wall and hit the red button that speed dials local first responders. Male, 39, unresponsive, shallow breathing, he barked. The dispatcher asked if narcotics were involved. Langdown hesitated, then answered, possible. That one word triggers a specific protocol in Santa Barbara County. Paramedics arrive with a tox screen kit and an onboard ventilator. At 11:54 p.m., neighbors 2 lots over heard sirens slicing through the coastal silence. Body cams later revealed Langdown pacing the gravel driveway barefoot. He'd kicked off his shoes in the dash upstairs, guiding medics past a row of black Range Rovers. Inside, they found Harry's oxygen saturation at a perilous 78%. One EMT inserted a nasal airway, another prepped an IV. They pushed fluid boluses and a reversal agent for sedatives, just in case. If we can't stabilize SATs in the next 5 minutes, we intubate, the lead medic radioed. The gurney ride out took less than 90 seconds, but it felt like an hour. Langdown climbed in beside the prince, bracing himself as the ambulance lurched onto the coast road. According to the trip log, they hit Cottage Hospital's bay doors at 12:17 a.m. Doctors ordered CT scans, liver panels, and a rapid tox screen. In one curt note, a resident wrote, patient presented cyanotic, regained consciousness with disorientation, denies self-harm. Private clinic transfer papers filed just before dawn included a sobering line. Immediate risk mitigated, long-term management advised. Med speak for he lived, but this will kill him if it happens again. While flashing lights bounced off Montecito hedges, Meghan Markle was 30 minutes south, gliding through the candlelit courtyard of Soho House, Malibu. The private club, favoured by A-listers who want to see and be seen, was hosting a low-key mixer for a streaming platform exec's birthday. Meghan arrived in a cream-coloured jumpsuit, flanked by a single aide and 2 plainclothes security officers who stayed just out of frame. Phone cameras caught her hugging the host, clinking a mocktail, and throwing her head back in laughter. Time-stamped footage later confirmed those moments occurred after Langdown's frantic 911 call, but before any news site knew an ambulance had come and gone. Partygoers say Meghan spent most of the night in a corner boncat, deep in conversation with a podcast producer about a potential wellness series. One source recalls her glancing at her phone, frowning, then tucking it face down on the table. When a waiter mentioned paparazzi staking out the parking lot, Meghan reportedly replied, "Let them work, we're off the clock tonight." At 1:05 a.m., precisely when Harry was undergoing a CT scan, she posed for a quick group selfie beneath the clubhouse's neon sign. That image, complete with time-stamped metadata, would later double as proof she was nowhere near the chaos. Back in Montecito, Archwell communications staffers woke to flooded inboxes. Local scanner feeds had tipped bloggers that a high-profile male was rushed to Cottage Hospital. By 2 a.m., crisis PR texts were flying. One aide proposed a holding statement, minor medical event, recovering at home. Another advised silence until they could align with Meghan's schedule. usual. Silence won. By the time the Duchess's black SUV swung through the mansion gates at 2:47 a.m., Harry was already sedated and headed to a discreet detox wing the hospital keeps for VIPs. To supporters, the timeline proves nothing. Meghan might have left a dull networking event the second she got word. To critics, it looks orchestrated. Plant yourself somewhere photogenic, flash a carefree smile, establish distance, then spin the story later. Even sympathetic tabloids noted how swiftly the Soho House photos landed on celebrity newswires, almost as if someone ensured photographers had a clear shot. Meanwhile, no one from Meghan's camp has explained why her phone was evidently unreachable to Langdown, the palace, or Harry's personal physician until well past 3 a.m. Harry's collapse yanked a hidden battle into ugly daylight. In his own memoir, he granted glimpses: weed in Kensington Palace, lines of sea powder at private parties, experiments with ayahuasca to feel something different. Friends from Eton whisper the habits never vanished, they just hit better security checkpoints. The infamous snorting vodka dare of 2007 was shrugged off as frat house bravado, yet medical journals warn one shot up the nose can trigger a fatal seizure. Even after the Oprah mental health docuseries painted Harry as a man in therapy, insiders kept spotting panic attacks backstage, twitchy hands gripping hotel bar glasses, and a perennial cocktail of prescription meds to blunt the noise. Prince Harry's Montecito emergency didn't erupt from nowhere. It's the latest spike on a graph that's been trending the wrong way since his teens. The first public flare came in 2001 when a 17-year-old Harry was photographed stumbling out of a southwest London pub, nicknamed the Thirsty Scholar. Tabloids splashed the headline Prince Piastri Edie**, and Clarence House downplayed it as harmless experimentation. Privately, palace aides were already confiscating rolling papers and empty beer bottles from his Eton dorm. Charles, ever the modernising monarch in waiting, opted for what he called controlled exposure, marching Harry through a one-day visit to a drug rehab centre so he could see real addicts. Harry later admitted he spent most of that tour studying the exit signs, wondering how quickly he could bolt. If that scare tactic landed, the effect didn't last. University pals remember Hazza mixing vodka with energy drinks until 4 a.m, then jogging to lectures because royal protection officers refused to let him skip class. By 2005, the prince was partying at Club H, a makeshift disco Charles built in Highgrove's cellar, hoping his son would misbehave under royal supervision rather than in paparazzi killing fields. It backfired. Insiders say the private bar became a proving ground for drinking contests, with Harry once knocking back so many flaming sambucas that a bodyguard phoned an ambulance, only to have the call vetoed by a senior equerry who feared headlines. Stunts escalated. There was the infamous 2007 snorting vodka dare at a Sandhurst-era house party. Yes, inhaling distilled liquor through the nose. Medical specialists warn that bypassing the stomach sends alcohol straight to the bloodstream, risking seizure or cardiac arrest. Harry's response the next morning, according to a friend, was, "Well, I can still salute, so I reckon I'll live." A year later, during Apache helicopter training, he bragged about smashing Jaeger bombs on a 36-hour pass, an admission fellow cadets dismissed as gallows humor until 2 surprise drug tests were postponed and eventually lost in the admin shuffle. Post-Afghanistan, the habits turned chemical rather than theatrical. Vegas 2012 made global news when naked billiards photos leaked. What never leaked were hotel security affidavits describing the suite strewn with canisters of nitrous oxide. Casino management hushed it up in exchange for royal goodwill. The palace spun it as letting off steam, but courtiers quietly insisted on a rotating sobriety minder anytime Harry travelled abroad. One of those minders later told a journalist that the prince could go from charming raconteur to red-eyed fury in 2 whiskeys flat, like a light switch you couldn't find in the dark. Therapy helped, briefly. By 2017, Harry was praising EMDR and military veteran counselling initiatives, telling reporters alcohol once felt like a comfort blanket he'd finally outgrown. Then came the Netflix doc, The Oprah Sit-Down, and the memoir Spare, where he confessed to a frost-nipped todger in Antarctica and frostier thoughts back home. Code, some say, for self-medicating depressive episodes with weed at Kensington Palace. He framed psychedelics like ayahuasca as therapeutic breakthroughs. Mental health advocates countered that unregulated use can deepen trauma without medical supervision. Enter Meghan. In early dating days, she banned smoking indoors and swapped Harry's Corona stockpile for green juice sachets. Friends thought the clean living shift would stick until West End bartenders noticed the prince ordering triple-measure tequila while Meghan sipped kombucha. By the time they landed in California, Harry's circle had shrunk to a handful of Montecito neighbors and one ever-vigilant bodyguard. Those close say the isolation, plus California's retail cannabis free-for-all, nudged him back toward nightly edibles washed down with reposado. Meghan, laser-focused on brand deals and content pitches, chalked it up to stress relief and carried on. All of it compounds a deeper wound, unresolved grief over Diana and festering resentment toward the palace machine. Harry once told a combat buddy that booze made the paparazzi blur and psychedelics made Diana's memory feel close enough to touch. Each remedy offered a different escape, none offered a cure. Doctors at Cottage Hospital reportedly warned Langdown that mixing benzos with high-proof alcohol can crash respiration in minutes, a textbook match for the vitals they logged on arrival. So when Montecito's tranquility shattered at 11:47 p.m., it wasn't a shocking derailment, it was the inevitable cliff edge of a route Harry's been speeding down for 2 decades. And unless the prince swaps emergency room detours for real, long-term rehab, Section 1's midnight sirens will echo again. Maybe next time without Langdown there to hear them. Each time a scandal threatened to erupt, the firm doused the sparks. In 2002, Prince Charles built a basement nightclub at Highgrove, complete with silk panel walls and an in-house DJ, so Harry could party under watch. During his Afghanistan deployment, sudden training flights miraculously whisked him away whenever surprise drug tests loomed. A hospital charity visit where Harry allegedly inhaled an entire canister of medical laughing gas vanished from headlines overnight after palace aides served reporters tea, biscuits, and a non-disclosure agreement. Through it all, David Langdown stayed unflinching. Vegas binges, polo field hangovers, whispered rehab weekends in Arizona. Sources credit him with 3 life-saving interventions that never reached the tabloids. This time he ignored a junior aide's plea to keep things quiet and chose sirens over spin. If the prince survives himself, he'll owe that survival to a man who still salutes protocol but refuses to shield self-destruction. Inside Buckingham Palace, the mood is less hashtags, more constitutional headache. If Harry's downward spiral continues, senior courtiers fear a public guardianship fight. Who gets the children if their father relapses and their mother's credibility craters? Some advisors argue for a televised show of unity. Others whisper about a permanent royal freeze-out, letting California keep its drama on the other side of the Atlantic. So where does the story land? It hangs between breaking point and turning point. Friends beg Harry to commit to long-term residential treatment. Meghan's camp says that it was exhaustion, not overdose. Lawyers quietly draft contingencies while royal PR praise the next news cycle brings a convenient distraction. Yet one truth refuses to hide behind palace walls or streaming deals. Privilege can shield a reputation, but it can't resuscitate a failing heartbeat. Until Harry chooses real help and the people profiting from his pain stop measuring clicks, this cycle keeps spinning. The question isn't whether the palace can bury one more ambulance ride, it's whether the prince can outrun the one headline nobody can spin. A royal died tonight and everyone saw it coming.